when it comes time to make a decision on where to get married, there's sort of endless possibilities, and that can be really exciting, but also really overwhelming. And I have found in working with couples that the decision on the venue is one of the most stressful because, at least for me, if I'm picturing where I'm going to have something, I can see it going one way at this venue and one way at this venue, and both of them may be right choices. And it can be really hard to make that decision. Welcome to The Wedding Plan. My name is Tyler Spire, and me and my team produce bespoke events across the globe. This podcast is where I share key advice for planning your own wedding, as well as behind-the-scenes adventures and stories from the events we produce. Hey friends, and welcome to The Wedding Plan. I know Thanksgiving here is just around the corner, and I just love Thanksgiving so much. I love just the focus on family and friends and togetherness. One of my favorite Thanksgiving traditions in our household is we actually host, usually like a week or two before Thanksgiving, a Friendsgiving. It's kid-free. We invite a few other couples who all have kids, but everybody gets a sitter, everybody cooks, and it's just this like really fun night. We basically do all the Thanksgiving traditions, sharing what we're thankful for. We eat yummy food and play fun games and just like really set our intentions for the holiday. And then we're able to all go off to our own families and celebrate later. And what I love about that is, like I fully acknowledge that right now at this stage in life, my wife and I, we have 3 kids, we have one on the way, and most of our holidays are spent like going to grandparents' houses and, our parents and our kids going to their grandparents, and it's like really special. But one day we'll be the hosting house. And so having the Friendsgiving gives us the opportunity to make all the food and make the turkey and do the things. So one day when we are hosting for everyone, it's super special, and we are just like doing it for the first time. So we love that. So anyways, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. So pro tip for setting your Thanksgiving table. This year, I'm just really loving all the candlelight. Light all the candles. Do taper candles and little votive candles, pillar candles, a big mix of all the candles. I think that candlelight is super romantic. It's super easy. And it's a way to just really elevate your dinner space. Last episode, we talked a little bit about the wedding budget. And in the planning process, how important it is from the beginning to get on the same page in terms of budget and to talk to different people who are contributing to your wedding and getting a sense of what their expectations are, and then deciding what your expectations are, and so on and so forth. And on social media, I had some really great questions come through, and a few people actually asked this. So I wanted to address it at the beginning of this episode and talk about it before we move on to our next topic. On social media, I was asked if a contribution to a wedding is truly a gift. Should the person contributing have any say in the planning process? Do we give gifts with strings attached? And I love that because that's a really unique perspective, and that's important for us to think about. And just being really honest, having seen so many weddings over the past 16 years and seeing so many parent-child relationships, family relationships, people contributing, people not contributing, people with opinions, people not with opinions, I don't think there's a simple answer to that. Because on one hand, yes, when somebody is giving a gift to someone, I think that it truly should be a gift, and that there shouldn't be a lot of strings attached or anything like that, because then it's kind of taking away the heart of the gift. So I do see that on one end. And then on the other end, I actually have this as a real life example. Early on in the business, we had some parents of a couple contributing towards the wedding, and they were contributing a good amount of money, like almost $100,000, to really make this special. And the bride chose to spend more than half of it on a dress. And that only left a very small amount for the wedding itself. And the parents felt very much like, wait, we were contributing towards a wedding celebration. Like, it was more important to us to have like dinner and food and drinks, not a fashion statement. And so I think, again, when it comes to the budget and people who are contributing and opinions, in a healthy situation, the people giving towards the wedding will say, this is for you, this is for a wedding. for your wedding. We love you and we want you to enjoy this. And then the couple will be able to say, is there anything that's really important to you in this day? So we make sure we're honoring this gift and that, all of us are going to create something really special. Because, that set of parents or that family member contributing may be like saying, actually, it's really important to me that we have an open bar. It's really important to me that we have a beautiful seated meal. It's important to me that it's in a beautiful location. And after that, it's all up to you guys. And then the couple can honor those expectations or have a conversation around those expectations. But I've definitely seen it run south where the, couple maybe isn't honoring the contribution that person is giving. And then they're showing up to the wedding and being like, wait, I contributed all of this money. And like, there isn't a band and there isn't this. And I thought that's what was happening. And I think the root of it comes down to, we just need to have clear communication. And as a couple, if you are accepting a gift for your wedding, I think being able to ask, are there any expectations you have so that we can honor those? And if the person contributing is giving you expectations that you disagree with or you don't want, that opens the door for a conversation. And if there is no conversation to be had, then it opens the door for you as a couple to say, do we want this help? But having all of those conversations and all of those sort of questions surrounding expectations done from the beginning is going to save so much of a headache later. So in summary, I do believe that when a gift is given, no strings should be attached. But I also believe that when a gift is given, especially of the magnitude of contributing towards a budget, there should be really clear communication about expectations. Because if there are expectations like, hey, I'm giving you this gift, I want you to enjoy it, but you're using it towards things that were not a part of what that person was thinking about, then it can lead to conflict in the future. So moving on, the next thing I want to talk about is choosing a venue. Now, when I'm working with couples, when we talk about, setting the intention, that comes first. Then we need to talk about budget, and budget kind of goes hand in hand with venue and guest list. Our next episode is going to be on guest list, and all these things are kind of happening simultaneously. But one of the hardest decisions in the planning process, in my opinion, is deciding where to get married. The beauty of today's day and age is that with social media, with the internet, with all the inspo images everywhere, really sky is the limit. The world is getting smaller and smaller, and you can have amazing celebrations literally anywhere. And that means that when it comes time to make a decision on where to get married, there's sort of endless possibilities, and that can be really exciting, but also really overwhelming. And I have found in working with couples that the decision on the venue is one of the most stressful, because at least for me, if I'm picturing where I'm going to have something, I can see it going one way at this venue and one way at this venue, and both of them may be right choices. And it can be really hard to make that decision, and decision paralysis is real. So what I would encourage you to do if you are a couple newly engaged and starting on this venue search process is, first of all, if you've already set your intention back on episode 1 of this season of what's important to you, that will help guide it. Secondly, if you've already had conversations around your budget, that's going to help, weed out some places that maybe be outside of your budget range or not somewhere that you're looking for. And then it comes down to the place itself. For me, with a venue, the very first thing I ask about is aesthetic. Does the aesthetic of the venue resonate with you? Is it a place that brings joy? Whether it's the architecture, the landscaping, maybe it's a hotel, maybe it's the rooms, maybe it's a sentimental place for you. But at a very minimum, a venue should spark joy before you choose it. And the way joy is sparked is different for everybody, right? But I usually think it's a lot in the way that it looks and feels while you are there. Number 2 is, can it hold the people you love? I think that in the beginning of the process, you need to have a sense of how many people you are inviting. And to know how many people you're inviting, you have to kind of start the guest list. And I'm going to do a whole episode on the guest list next, because that can also be a really fun adventure for couples. But in general, you should know, like, oh, we're going to have 100 people. Oh, we're going to have 150 people. Oh, 200, whatever it is. And that should be a reasonable number based on actually looking at the people you want to invite, talking to, if people are contributing, are there anybody they would want to invite, and making sure that you have an accurate expectation of who will show up, because there are venues that can only seat 100 people. And is that realistic for you? I know my wife and I, when we made our wedding guest list, we had 232 people on it. And that affected our venue choice because it ruled out so many places here in Santa Barbara. There's not a lot of places that can accommodate 200 or above. And that actually really narrowed down kind of the window of what we were looking at. Then I think that geographic location is important. For some couples, it's really clear from the beginning, we want to get married in our hometown, or, we want to get married in our happy place, and that is X, Y, and Z. It's Hawaii, it's Santa Barbara. It's, this is where we want to do it, and that's really easy. But for others, they're like, I just want something beachy. I want it to feel like a destination, and like sky's kind of the limit there. And I think narrowing down the location is really important, because if the parameters of the search are too wide, you're just never going to be able to settle in on anything. When it comes to narrowing down location, I always look for one, accessibility. Is this place easy to get to? If you're flying out 20 people somewhere, it's a little bit different. But if you're flying 100 people somewhere, is the location near an airport? Is it easy to get to, or do they have to land and then take a 3-hour car ride through the middle of nowhere that's really complicated and get to this place? And by the time they arrive to your venue, they're just going to be completely shot. So accessibility. I think that also looking at your venue, if it's a venue, whether it's a location that has accommodations or not, so whether it's like a private estate and you're looking at a nearby hotel or a hotel itself, but considering, are there options for accommodations for all different kinds of budgets in your guest count? If you're looking at a luxury hotel, is there a less expensive hotel down the street, down the road, within a few minutes for maybe some friends or family members who are on a little bit tighter of a budget, and staying at that hotel would not be an option for them? Is there something that's more affordable? As a couple getting married, you want to be an hospitable host, and you want to think about creating an amazing experience for yourselves, but also for the people that you love. And if you're choosing a luxury venue, I think that's amazing. But you also, as a host, need to be like, hey, this is what's available at our venue, but there's this other place down the road for any of you that want to stay that's nearby. It's not a rude thing to be considerate of everyone's budget and everyone's place. And if you're choosing somewhere that only has a really fancy place, that may exclude some family members or friends from coming to your wedding. So next up, I would consider time of year and weather, because some venues are outdoors and some have indoor locations. So many couples want an outdoor element in their wedding. And I tell all of my couples, when you are choosing anything outdoors, you are opening yourself up to whatever Mother Nature brings. It doesn't matter if you are getting married in a perfectly sunny location and like it never has rain at that time of year and you choose that. The minute you choose outdoors, you need to be open to whatever comes your way. And with that, that means having a rain contingency plan, having a heat contingency plan, a cold contingency plan. Nothing to super stress about at this stage. But as you're looking at the venue, that's something that I look at as a planner. Like, okay, look, I love this beautiful lawn for the ceremony. I love this garden for the reception. Is there an indoor space that's available if weather throws us a curveball? If there's not an indoor space available, what are the options if weather throws us a curveball? Are we building a tent? Are we moving to another area of the property? Whatever it is, knowing all of that from the beginning is going to save a lot of stress later. Then with a venue, I like to look at all the fees. As a planner, things that I'm looking for in a venue proposal are not just the site fee. If it's a hotel, there's also food and beverage minimums and other things. I'm looking for things like, do we need to bring in bathrooms? Is transportation required? Is there adequate power? Do we need to be bringing in a generator, which means an on-site tech, which means, all the cabling and equipment and things that we need to bring this to life? Does the venue require extra security? Some venues require babysitting services. Some venues have fees if you go over a certain guest count. I think it's really important that once you've identified, again, budget, how many people need to fit, the aesthetic that you like, and you're kind of narrowing in on, the location that you like, and you're kind of narrowing in on a few places, We then need to get into the nitty gritty. And this is where having a planner is so important. And if you can't afford to have a planner, where you doing your due diligence and really going through all of the venue requirements before ever signing so that you understand what you are committing to. Tip: if you are booking with a hotel that provides food and beverage, things that I look for in the beginning are, I want a full estimate of the food and beverage, not just a food and beverage minimum. A food and beverage minimum is exactly that, a minimum contractual spend. Say it's $50,000. That means that when you sign that contract, you're not saying you're going to spend $50,000. You're saying you're going to spend a minimum of $50,000. And I think it is so important for couples to request from the venue, or if I'm a planner working with a couple, I request this from the venue, a full estimate of charges for, say it's 150 guests, for a pre-ceremony welcome beverage, for 3 to 5 appetizers at cocktail hour, for a full plated dinner, for a full open bar, and we're going to want to dance till midnight. I want to see a full estimate of charges, because then the hotel has the opportunity to present you with not only the site fee, not only that food and beverage minimum, but this is what it would actually potentially cost to get married here. You're not locking yourself into this estimate, but it's helping you understand. Often there are service fees. Sometimes they're 20 to 30% or more on top of the food and beverage. And then there's taxes. Sometimes there's bartender fees and outdoor setup fees. And there's all these different things that come into play, which are all fair and they're all industry standard. But I think if you're committing to a venue and you're locking yourself in, you need to have a clear expectation of what that is going to cost you. If you're getting married at a private estate or somewhere that doesn't include food and beverage, having a clear understanding, and this is again where engaging a planner is so important. What are you actually committing to? The venue itself might just show you the site fee, but you need to understand if the venue requires transportation and you have 200 guests, what does transporting those guests actually cost? If the venue doesn't have ample power, what does a generator cost? And not just the generator, but you're going to want someone managing the power and making sure that it's all going smoothly. That's like your insurance policy, right? You don't want a generator just sitting out there with nobody running it. What if the power goes out? Who's fixing it? What's happening? There's other costs associated with it. If you are getting married at a private estate and they require bathroom rentals, what do bathrooms cost? I always like to say, what do nice bathrooms cost, right? You can always get like a construction porta potty and that's fine, but not for a wedding, right? Like what is it going to cost to actually bring in the infrastructure you need to make sure your expectations are met and that your guests are taken care of? Finally, in the venue decision-making process, I like to ask my couples, first of all, is it sparking joy? The budget, the guests, the other costs. But finally, do you love the venue the way it is? And this kind of feeds into sparking joy, but also I think it's one more layer, because there's a lot of venues where like, oh, this place brings me so much joy, but that lawn needs to be completely transformed. Or, oh, I just love this ceremony spot, but the ballroom, we're going to have to drape it. Like it needs to be completely changed. Whenever we use the words completely changed, let me tell you now, that's a big line item in the budget. Anything that's being enhanced, not as big of a line item. So as you're looking at the venue, if you're like, I love this ballroom, but I hate the carpet, I hate the walls, and we need all new lighting, that's great. We do that for a living, right? We bring in those kind of unique experiences for our clients, but those are major line items in a budget. And so if you're considering a venue and there's a lot that you need to change, talk to your planner and really get an understanding of what a transformation costs, so that when you commit, you understand what you are committing to. Because what you don't want to do is commit and be like, we've got this. And then you find out that carpeting that ballroom is 30 grand. Or that redoing all the lighting and draping the whole space is another 30 grand. And that's 60 grand on carpeting, lighting, and draping. We haven't even looked at flowers, rentals, decor, anything else. And that 60 grand may totally fit within your budget, but it may also be shooting you way above where you wanted to be. And now you're stressed and you're deciding between, do I want to compromise the way my wedding looks and feels? Am I okay with that ballroom carpet that wasn't my favorite? And all of a sudden you're creating a really stressful situation where from the beginning, you just would have understood, hey, a full transformation is going to cost me $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. And that's just a starting range. And every market's going to be a little different. But when you committed to that, if you have the understanding of that, then it's not going to be stressful later. And for some couples, I've actually talked to my own couples. We've talked about what transformations cost, and they're like, you know what? I don't want to allocate that amount of my budget to a transformation. Let's choose a venue that aesthetically we love the way it is. At the end of the day, like I said, choosing a venue is one of the hardest parts of the process. Because for me as a creative, I could see an event here, I could see it there. I think for couples, you could see it being a destination, you could see it being close to home, you could see it out in the garden, you could see it inside, outside, all these things. And there's all these beautiful pictures, and a lot of the decisions feel right. And for some couples, you have a moment where you're like, this is it. This is the right venue. This is what we're doing. And for others, it's like a tie between 2 or 3 or 4, and it's a little bit more confusing. Not only focusing on aesthetic, not only focusing on the way it looks, but also being really practical from the beginning. What is it going to cost to bring our vision to life? Can we afford it? Can we do it? Can it fit the people that we love? Do we have a full understanding of what we are committing to? And again, that's kind of where bringing a planner on early is just so important, because planners have that experience and help you understand what you are committing to, so that down the line, when numbers are being presented to you, when you're making design decisions, the planning process is peaceful, joyful, flexible. It's meeting your expectations, not just a curveball of how expensive everything is. So anyways, have a happy Thanksgiving, you guys, and thanks for tuning in. And next episode, we are going to be talking about the guest list, which is so fundamental in the wedding process and kind of goes hand in hand with budget and venue choice and everything at the beginning. And again, if you have any questions on choosing a venue, please send them to me on social media. You can comment below on YouTube. We'll address it in a future episode or address it in a comment. I also love DMs on Instagram. We'll always respond to those. But for those of you searching for a venue right now, hang in there. You're going to find the perfect place. And sometimes that's quite a journey, and sometimes it's not quite a journey, but it is one of the harder decisions in the process, because I truly believe once you choose where you're getting married, then everything else kind of starts falling into place, because you can picture it there. You know what you need to do. You kind of have a sense of what the day is going to look like, and it can be really exciting there moving forward.
Live your life within the moment, and don't go wait until the morning. You never know when it is over. All that I know is we'll get older. So let us dance this night away.